This podcast is also available via StageLink.com, the groundbreaking new platform for live performing arts. Please support the podcast by liking, subscribing, commenting, and tagging the podcast. It helps us to continue to bring the industry high-level content. I'm your host, Shanae Stiletto, and my guest on today's Circuspreneur Podcast is World Acrobatics Society Secretary and Chairperson for the Gallery of Legends Hall of Fame, Stacie Hansen. Welcome to the podcast, Stacie.
Thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much for being here. Yeah, it's a pleasure. And to let listeners know a little bit about Stacie. Stacie Hansen began serving in 2018 as chairperson of the Hall of Fame Gallery of Legends and in 2019 as their secretary. She is responsible for maintaining all WAS records to date and for managing the organizational team and nominations process for the annual Hall of Fame banquet. Stacie is a graduate of Western Michigan University. She was a competitive gymnast, coach, and judge in Michigan. Stacie is a champion of artistic gymnastics, having coached thousands of gymnasts over her 20-year career in Michigan and also Colorado, which included a directorship at two high-profile gyms. She currently resides in Pomfret, Connecticut, and is a director at Deary's Gymnastics Supply. Oh, we could go into gymnastics talk, I think, probably for hours.
Yes, we probably could.
There
Been
is
doing
like
it a long time.
I'm sure we know so many of the same people and have so many of the same connections. In gymnastics, it's such a small world and
It
a very
is.
over generations. I think which is what I think makes gymnastics really really special for my gymnastics listeners and audiences there because I speak about my acrobatic gymnastics career so often on the podcast, and then obviously the overlap between circus, which is
Yep.
another conversation that we delve into a lot and obviously is what I love so much about was because it has everything. It has
Yes.
my my kind of entry into circus and how I got there, and then it celebrates both. So it is such a special organization. I was so honored to be inducted into the World Acrobatic Society Hall of Fame. We were just discussing that right before the podcast, Stacie. I was inducted with my former acrobatic gymnastics partner Arthur Davis, and we had some historic achievements, becoming the first world champions and two-time world champions and honorary Olympians in our sport, and then carrying that on to work in the circus now for these last, several years, and had that, honor of having that transitional period, and then an organization that honors both, honors the professional, performance career and the former competitive career, which is again such a beautiful pairing, and I think and very
Yeah.
common for our sports, respectively, in the kind of gymnastics realm. And so I had a fantastic conversation with Vice President Rich Kinney on the podcast last year. That was just prior to the Hall of Fame, which the ceremony happens in Las Vegas every single year, I believe. Remind me if I'm wrong, Stacie, in September.
Yep.
Yes. And
Usually the first weekend in September or
okay.
September.
And could you remind listeners, again, Stacie, the location that that the ceremony happens on the strip?
Yeah, we usually have it just off the strip in a hotel called the Tuscany Suites and Casinos. They have just a great campus where everybody can stay and congregate and have dinners together. And then there are the rooms where we have the induction ceremony. And we can have meetings in other rooms as well. We have a welcoming party. It has everything. So it's worked out great for us, and I foresee us sticking around for a while.
Yeah, well, it has been how many years now that you
Yeah.
have had the World Acrobatic Society? It's been quite some time since its inception. And for
Oh,
folks
yeah.
listening, anyone can attend the Hall of Fame ceremony, right? It's open
Yes.
to the public, to the circus public, to the gymnastics public, to all of
Yes.
the disciplines, which I want to go into in terms of the disciplines, and then the nomination process as well. There was a deadline just a few days ago to nominate, but we discussed as well, Stacie, some other facets of that process that folks can participate in, even if they're not, for example, members of the World Acrobatics Society, right?
Yeah, they can come to the whole weekend that we have planned for the induction.
Mm.
It's not just the induction ceremony on Saturday night, which is a black tie gala. It's beautiful. But we have also a panel discussion with all of the inductees. And that is one of my most favorite parts because we get to hear everybody speak on real personal issues, like how they came to be, how did they learn, where did they come from, and you can ask questions. The microphone travels around the room. You can ask anybody anything, and it's so great to have, a diver right next to a circus family, next to an Olympic gymnast, and etc.
Oh God, I know. It's just like it's everything for me. It's like all of my
Yeah,
favorite things.
yeah,
And I think, like no one is left out in WAS, which is really, really interesting and unique. We're all used to there being these induction ceremonies that include like one type of discipline,
yeah,
either it's usually Gymnastics Hall of Fame or, it's something very specific like that. But I love WAS because
yes.
it's literally every type of acrobatic discipline around the world. And speaking of inductees, last year, folks, the Flying Caballeros were inducted, which is a really, everyone knows that
Oh,
name.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, they were amazing. That
Yeah,
was really fun to have a family up there talking about, how the little ones are learning and coming along, and the generations that it's passed through. That was so much fun.
it's
And
so special.
having the having someone like Travis Pastrana being inducted and sitting in a chair for action sports, looking over in awe at another Olympic gymnast, just listening, intrigued. It's just so much fun and that's the biggest compliment that I think I've heard about the event was
Mhm.
the crossover between disciplines. But that's why we
Mhm.
do it, because I mean, that's why the founders did it. They came together and they found a commonality between all of these acrobats. Everybody was friends and they thought, let's just keep this going. Let's keep gathering and keep the history alive of everything. So it's
And I think it's
exciting.
really beautiful. Sorry to cut you off there, Stacey.
No, no, you're fine.
Yeah.
I didn't have more to say.
Okay. Sorry, but yes, that beautiful combination and also too, here in America, with so many generational circus and so many different backgrounds, sometimes there's not that overlap that you find that is very common, I would say, in Europe, something that you see there. And so I love that was also created to give the American base that history, because sometimes when I speak to folks that are in America, they're not thinking about circus history in that same way. And sometimes you see the representation in Europe, but you remind them, no, we do have that as well here. And so it's really a great way to amplify that, I think, especially because things have gotten very modern focused. And sometimes folks forget, about the history of these different disciplines and who was there before and who kind of crafted these environments and made them so special, or who was the first in these environments. I know that it has taught me so much every single time I see and I go through, the different nominations and folks that are inducted, and you learn so much about the history where sometimes people are like, I didn't even know that was achieved in that discipline, like ever. I
Right.
thought that no one had done it yet. And so, to me, it's archival so important to have these records and to, remind folks of the history of these disciplines that have been around. And then also to kind of how they coalesce, because sometimes people think that they're new. And I'm like, that is not new. Like that has been
No,
around for
that's right.
decades. Yeah, it didn't
That's
just
right. They've been
out of
they've
nowhere.
been acrobats as long as you've been an acrobat in your history. Yeah, it is fun. And being a world organization, it kind of unites all of us. The
Hmm.
Americans get to celebrate the Christiani. Do you know the Christiani family
Oh,
from
yes.
yes, oh my
Oh,
gosh,
yes.
that was an awesome induction too. That was
Oh,
professional acrobatics, and they've been around since the 1800s. So, I know, but bringing that into the US, like we have it in Vegas, and
mhm.
so we get a lot of attendance from the US because of that, but we also have a lot of internationals that fly in to celebrate. So, it's just a really nice united front with acrobatics.
And can you go into some of the disciplines that are represented in the World Acrobatics Society, Stacy? And then maybe a little bit about. I know that you said that it was friends upon friends that kind of started the process, but also to kind of what determined including those disciplines in the World Acrobatics Society. I think that's like so
Oh,
interesting.
Well, I do too. I wish I was there, but I wasn't there. It began back in the mid 90s. And I
We were
think,
barely, some of us weren't born.
yeah, I was definitely born. So there are 6 disciplines that we celebrate: artistic gymnastics, action sports, acrobatic gymnastics, diving, professional acrobatics, and tumbling and trampoline. And then we have 4 auxiliary awards as well. So we have an internal award which celebrates somebody who's been of service to our organization, called the Charlie Pond Service Award. And we have a Lifetime Achievement Award, a Golden Achievement Award,
Oh.
and then an Acrobatic Excellence Award, which is brand new. And the Blue Angels were our initial induction for that. That was fun.
Oh, wow. And for folks that are not familiar with the Blue Angels, Stacie, can you give a little bit of background around them? That's very special.
Um, they've been around for a very long time with, and it's a fighter jet
Hmm.
conglomeration. They fly in unison, they fly solo, and they do tricking in the air in their airplanes. And
It's
flipping and
crazy.
balancing, yeah, flipping and balancing is the core of the World Acrobatics Society. So that's by definition what makes us all united in acrobatics.
And what about the action sports? Can you give a little bit of description for folks that are maybe not familiar with action sports
Yeah.
represent?
Yeah, Travis Pastrana, who I mentioned earlier, is a perfect example of an action sports hero, right? He created the Nitro Circus. He did the first double back on
Mm.
a motorbike. I mean, people like that.
Wow.
Red Bull divers,
Ooh.
parkour guys who just are world renowned. You know, Ryan Doyle was inducted. So the Aaron Fotheringham, they call him Wheels, but he's in a wheelchair, and this guy is
Ooh.
insane. But anybody who you look at who's an athlete and an acrobat who flips, and you think that's insane, that's action sports.
Yeah, it's all so insane and so scary. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
when
Well,
you
we all
discover
love
what
that
your
part.
limit is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I would not do that.
That's the fun part, when we get together and everybody looks at everybody else going, no way would I do that. But then you look at that person, and that other person says the same thing about them. So it's really a fun event.
It
We
sounds like
also,
really, yeah.
yeah. What other discipline interests you? Curious.
Well, I mean, all of them. I always go back to the competitive acrobatics because I am
Of
just,
course.
that's my foundation. But I really love all of them because it was like what you were saying, Stacie. Once you are, and even when you're actually competing in gymnastics, you actually have like a lot of intersection with a lot of those disciplines, actually. I mean, I was
Yeah.
having interactions with
Yeah.
so many of them before I got into the circus arts. But then even once I
Yeah.
got into the circus arts, I mean, you're really rubbing shoulders and now you're in productions with a lot of those folks. I mean, there's a lot of parkour now that's introduced,
Yes. That's
into
right.
the circus arts industry too. So, many of those sports have
And
become Olympic
gymnasts.
sports. Yeah,
Like
yeah,
artistic gymnastics, a lot of
yeah,
crossover there too, and into
yeah,
diving as well.
yeah. Oh,
Just
yeah, a ton of
landing on your
diving.
head.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Synchronized swimming. That's another
that
big
would be
one.
different. That wouldn't be a world act. That's a great example of something that we couldn't induct somebody from synchronized swimming because there's no aerial flipping.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, even with the way that they've kind of changed the rules now, do you think that'll be something that'll change? Because now there's a lot of actual aerial diving that was not permissible in
Oh,
synchronized swimming before, and now they're also having men in synchronized swimming, which was also not allowed. So it's fairly new. They're much
okay.
more
Yeah.
acrobatic, and they've inserted a lot more acrobatic gymnastics inside of synchronized swimming. So I wonder. I knew that synchronized swimming
Great
was not a part of
example.
was, but I'm curious to see if it could be now that they've changed the rules because now you can have the
Yeah.
distance that wasn't allowed and the
Yeah.
throwing and yeah.
Okay, so that's a lot of what I do. I get
Mm.
through the nomination process, I get a lot of questions about where would this person fit best, which category, or do they qualify at all in this? So
Mm-hmm.
synchronized swimming or synchronized diving for sure. I'm sorry. I was thinking
Mm-hmm.
swimming in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody came to me and asked about synchronized swimming, I would have
Mm-hmm.
to do an evaluation of it and just look and see if it fit the criteria of, our core values, so to speak.
Interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
that really reminds me of he's a very famous synchronized swimmer. He was in the Cirque du Soleil production of Oh, his name is Bill May. And do you
Oh,
know Bill? Have you heard of Bill May at all?
I
He
no,
is,
I haven't, but that's a great show.
mhm. Yeah, great show. One of one of my original favorites. And yeah, I went. He is legendary now because he was in O for like over 20 years, like probably from the
Uh,
beginning of
yeah.
creation. And then he went for the Olympics last year. And he's also been advocating for men and for the mixed category. I think to be permissible moving forward. This last Olympics was the first Olympics that men were a part of it. That's why I know so much about it. And it was very much. But what was great about Bill is that he was going back and forth between the competitive space and the circus space at the same time, which is becoming
Oh,
so popular nowadays too. So
yeah.
he seems like someone who should definitely be nominated if he hasn't been, and then
Okay.
inducted if he can eventually meet that criteria. Which is again another great question,
Yeah.
Stacey, of
Yeah.
what is the criteria to nominate someone to be potentially inducted into the World Acrobatic Society, and who takes care of the nomination process, and then how can we participate in that nomination process?
Oh, good question. We actually have our criteria online on our website, worldacro.com. And you can, if you click into the nomination section, you'll find a sheet that says to click here for the nomination criteria. And it categorizes each discipline and each award. And we have just got a general, it's been tightened up a little bit over the years, but you'll see,
Hmm.
and I'll read to you, for example, for an acrobatic gymnastics and or cheerleading legend, you'd have to have a minimum of 5 years as a competitive athlete, 2 years at the national level, and 2 years at the international level. And these are actually just questions online. It doesn't mean that you can't nominate somebody for that category. These are just our recommendations if you want somebody who we consider would be a legend, they would have at least these things,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, there are a few more things on there, but that gives you a good idea of what kinds of things we look at. And then we ask about their impact on the sport beyond that. And, everything is left up to our board at the end of the day. I
Okay.
mean, we have nominations that come in through the end of this year. It was through the end of March
Hmm.
online. When those are submitted, they come to me. After they come to me, I review it and I distribute it to my committee chairs, and then they do an evaluation of each nominee. So these committees are made up of specialists in that area. So if you were one
Oh.
of my committee chairs, I would send you all of the nominees for this year, and you would go through them and just evaluate, is this criteria fitting the criteria we've asked for and created? And then you just submit yes and no, and then you give us your committee's ranking. So you can have 3 to 4 people on your committee with you vetting I'm not sure if they really got first place or if it was second at this event. So let's check it out. We do need to make sure that we're not stealing somebody else's award from the past, make sure that everything is right. And then you'd submit that back to me and I put it into a presentation and give it to the board, which I'm also on the board. So we all vote at the end of April, and we're left with our induction class of 2025. It's going to be exciting.
Wow.
And I wish I could
Wow.
speak about the nominees that we have this year, but I think I should just keep them at bay for now. During the
Okay.
evaluation process, it's important that they get a good chance to evaluate before we announce to the public who we've got on the
So you
table.
announce the nominees, and then what is the part that we can kind of be engaged in on that level? As like
Um,
as the general public, is there a space for us to be
yeah.
included in that?
Yeah. If
Okay.
you wanted to nominate somebody, you would just look for some athlete that makes you say, wow, they are an absolute legend. Then you can read our criteria. To
Okay.
nominate somebody, you'd need to be a member of the World Acrobatics Society.
Oh,
That's
okay.
$35 for an annual membership. And that's
Hmm.
really good. That's for a whole year. You know, you get to partake in our meetings that we have throughout the year.
Mm.
You'd get a say in how things are run. So that's kind of fun. And
Yeah, that's
sometimes you
great.
get an insight on what's going on, and then you get to meet people, and it's really fun thing to be a part of. But you can keep an eye on the website. If you're not nominating somebody, you can just keep an eye on our announcement on Facebook or on our website. At the end of April, after the board votes, we'll be announcing the induction class of 2025. And
Oh,
then you
that's
can
great.
determine and then you can determine whether you'd like to come to Vegas and celebrate them. And you get to meet them and talk with them, ask them questions, intermingle. It's a really fun weekend.
Oh, that's so amazing. And so when does that nomination process open up again, Stacey? Since you're like at the tail end of announcing the nominees at the end of April, when can someone submit if now they've missed like that March deadline?
We usually open it back up after the event.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so not until late fall. Um, but
Okay.
but to be honest, I mean, I have people emailing me throughout the year. My
I
email's
bet.
online on the World Acrobatics Society.
I
I
bet.
know right after the announcement, usually there's one particular person, thank you, Freddie, who always emails me and says, "I've got somebody. It's going to be great," and it always is. So
Yeah, I'm sure it like gives people ideas after they see
yes,
who are the
yeah,
nominees
yeah,
for
that's
this year.
right.
They're like, oh, this person would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
And then, are there any other things that you need to submit to nominate that person? Does that person still have to be living to be nominated? Can it be an extension? Do you have to be related to them? Since there are so many generational families, that are nominated, especially on the circus side. So, are there any kind of specifics that you need to know when you want to nominate someone? If you feel like, well, am I allowed to do that? Or do you need to, for example, submit them via more than one person for them to be considered? Or is it just kind of like a direct, like just one person, one nomination? Do you need to give archival videos? Do you need to supply photos, something that represents the history of their career and their accomplishments, just kind of outside of answering those questions?
Yeah, anything you can offer during your submission process is helpful.
Okay.
That's when we really receive the most material, actually.
Mm.
So photos and videos are so helpful. We have we have a particular place once somebody is going to be inducted. We have a particular place that we'd like those photos and videos uploaded to, and it is a little bit of work to do the nomination. You have to be committed, like I really want to help make this happen. That's the best attitude you could possibly have to nominate. So I would like that if somebody did that. So we'll reach out to you. If, let's say, you have a hero that you admire from afar, that would probably be the hardest one, but maybe the most desirable to nominate. If you want to nominate, Mary Lou Retton for the World Acrobatic Society, let's say,
Already in?
she's everybody's favorite, right?
Is not
um,
already inducted?
she's not. I know. I don't think she
What?
is. If you can believe that, yeah.
My God.
Um, I
That
know.
happens though. I don't know if you saw, but Gabby Douglas just got she's being inducted to this year's USA Gymnastics Hall of Fame. And I thought that she was already inducted, years ago at
Yeah.
this point. Yeah.
Oh my
I was
gosh. Yeah.
shocked.
Well, it's actually nice to have a little time go by so that you can see how they're doing in the sport. If they've continued, if they've, how has their career been received? And it's just, yeah, Gabby definitely should be in there. I'm excited to hear that.
Gabby and Mary Lou.
Oh, yeah.
Now
So
it starts to make me think of different people. I'm like, oh God, do I need to nominate
I
this person?
know.
Do I need to nominate that person? He needs to start making some phone calls, sending some
Yes.
texts.
Yes. I want to hear that. I want to hear who you're looking at. But you do need to have a little information on that person. We can always help, but if you reach
Mhm.
out, we can help get it done. But we're all volunteers.
Mm.
We all have a life of our own and our jobs, and most of us have jobs still, and a family and all of that. So it is extra, but it's a labor of love for all of us.
And it seems like such a labor of love, and I really appreciate all of the work that you do, Stacie, and everybody connected to WAS. And could you also too go in a little bit, Stacie, of some of the nominees over the years that maybe have stood out to you? Just to kind of continue to pique folks' interest of who they might be able to nominate, and kind of what backgrounds they've had. Some that maybe stand out to you in the last few years that could be, that are, yeah, just highlights for you, I think, in terms of being a part of WAS for this long, and for giving them so much beautiful work as well.
Yeah. So before I was the chairperson, um,
Mhm.
I was working the event because I've been a board member for a while. And somebody leaked that Olga Corbett was going to be inducted. And yeah, I flipped out.
I just flipped, I reflipped out.
It
That
was so
Olga.
funny. She stands out. Svetlana Boginskaya.
Oh,
I mean, I could name
oh,
a lot of artistic gymnasts, but
of course. Keep going. I love
Nadia
Svetlana.
Bart, A.B. Grosfeld, yeah.
Oh, I
All
love
these
Nadia and
people.
Bart. We go way
Oh, yeah,
back.
they're so
Yeah,
sweet.
they're so
Yeah,
sweet, so
they're
special.
good people. Yep, and they give back like
Yeah,
incredibly. So,
yeah.
let's see. The Golden Achievement is probably one of my favorite awards. And
Mm.
you don't have to have been an Olympic athlete to get this award, but you do have to come from a discipline that WAS celebrates. So, for example, we've had Jay Whalen was a gymnast, an excellent college gymnast. He may have been national team, um, maybe not known on the world stage internationally, or maybe he was. He's going to kill me, or everyone will kill me if I don't remember this. I'm sorry, Jay. But he's had an incredible career outside of that, and
Mhm.
that's what this award is about. The Golden Achievement, where you take the discipline that you've learned from all of your hard work as an athlete and you apply it to make the world better.
And I see so many of, our fellow acrobats doing that in the world, where to
Yeah,
me, it just goes to show how special this environment is, because folks that
that's right.
are in the acrobatic space in any capacity end up giving back so much. They end up,
Mhm.
giving so much beautiful service to their communities, to their environments. They end up in some really different and unique spaces, but they bring that kind of like core value, wherever they go, because it's such a inclusive space. And I think whatever you develop in that space is so hard won. And even for myself, I
Yes,
wanted to gift whatever I got, to the upcoming generations, and not even upcoming generations, just the folks that are around me that feel like they could really benefit from that, because I feel like you get so much integrity out of being in the acrobatic space. And
absolutely.
yeah, and reflecting that through WAS, through the World Acrobatics Society, has been so special. We are in the last, I would say, about minute. Stacie, this has flown by speaking to you. You're so fantastic and so
So awesome.
wonderful.
Thank you.
So
This was
excited
really
for
nice.
folks. Yeah, oh, thank you. I really appreciate it, Stacie, and thank you for your time. And so, would you like to close out the podcast with any other special things that folks that aren't familiar with WAS, or that are familiar and that can be more involved, and any other perspectives that you'd like to share about the specialness of the World's Acrobatic Society?
Gosh. Well, I just hope everybody who's listening gets a chance to come attend the event. And I would
Hmm.
encourage you to come for the whole weekend, from Friday night's welcome party all the way through the induction ceremony, because then you really get a taste of what it's all about. And it's really become like a family for everybody who's been a part of it. It's just nice to know that I mean, artistic gymnastics for me was always um, my my own club, my safe space with everybody, and then we became part of something much bigger. And it's really amazing to realize how big that is. So having a family that crosses disciplines like that, I just would love for everyone to come experience it for themselves.
Yes, a global family from all over. And we get that from when we're very little. And then we get to see how that translates into the rest of our lives. And that's just what it makes me feel like. You just get to celebrate your family from all over the world, from backgrounds and that you never knew, that
Yeah,
you'd be able to meet such
right.
special and unique and fascinating individuals that accomplished really unique and
Yes.
groundbreaking things. So thank you again so much, Stacie. And I will close out this episode with the Circuspreneur Podcast. It's also available on stagelink.com, stagelync.com, the groundbreaking new platform for live performing arts that provides unmatched access and connection to this vibrant world of shows and entertainment. If you're a professional in the performing arts, visit stagelink.com/pro, StageLyncPro. StageLink Pro offers industry professionals higher visibility, networking opportunities, and tools to support and enhance their careers. Until next time, everyone, I'm your host, Shanae Stiletto. Thank you so much for tuning into the Circuspreneur Podcast and enjoying our fantastic guest, Stacie Hansen.
Thank you.